Okay, if I get started.
Yep, you're good to go.
Awesome. Good evening. It is 6:30 and the Planning and Zoning Committee will now come to order. We have some minutes to approve. We have minutes for the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting and the public hearing held on February 1st, 2021. And previously, there was an oversight on the distribution of meeting minutes from the committee meeting held on January 4th. So for clarification, I would like to ask that they be approved again this evening. So at this time, are there any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, they will stand as written. Thank you very much. There will be a public hearing on May 17th, 2021, related to temporary ordinance B14. So we then just have one item to discuss this evening, temporary ordinance B14, presented by the administration, authorizing and approving the final subdivision plat and improvement plans for the ledges of Pine Ridge on parcel 37-00221, also known as 5008 State Road, and declaring an emergency. So this was approved to come to committee tonight by the Planning Commission on Tuesday, April 6th. And Ms. Colvecchio, are you here to start us off?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair. And thank you, everyone, and good evening. I'm just going to give a brief history of this development and another development that relates somewhat to what's happening with this one. And then I'll kick it over to Adam, and he's going to share his screen and talk about what happened at planning. So first, a few introductions. With us this evening on the Zoom call is the development team. Both Greg Modick and I see Sam Petros are here. I don't see any others, but if they pop in, I'll be sure to let you know. And I don't see any of the residents from Pine Ridge nearby that are taking issue with any of the development here. There have been some residents that have taken issue with the traffic concerns that are existing in this whole corridor there along State Road, and namely some residents in Hidden Lakes have taken issue with the traffic. And it's that I want to talk to you about before I kick it over. So we've had several meetings. We know we had the preliminary site plan on this development, Pine Ridge, and we've also been over here to talk to you about a map amendment for another development off of Cuyahoga Lake Road, now called Princeton Place, by the same development team. And that is for apartments and about 50,000 square feet of commercial space. And we started thinking about this whole area really as one big triangular piece of property in our city, that being from Steele's Corners to Seasons Road to Cuyahoga Lake Road to State Road, and wanted to kind of see if there was a way maybe we could start looking at the traffic a little more seriously, since we're hearing these cries for help from the residents. So most recently, the city entered into an agreement with Prime AE, and we've hired them to conduct a corridor traffic study for this entire area. The city is putting in about 30,000 into that study, and the development team here tonight is putting in 10,000 for that study. And we know that it's underway. We don't have the results yet, but I wanted you all to know, as you consider this ordinance here tonight, that we're not ignoring the concerns of the area residents about the traffic problems that they have in this area. And you may recall when this preliminary site plan came to you previously, there were residents who spoke during the Zoom call about the traffic. And we were talking to them then, and we were saying that this traffic study was something we were considering. I wanted you to know that we are actually in contract and it's being performed. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Adam, and he's going to describe the plan for you tonight.
Thank you, Diana. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Paul in the Planning Division with the city. I'll review our summary report and the Planning Commission's recommendation for the committee here this evening. Let me share my screen. Okay, so regarding temporary ordinance number B-14, this is an ordinance authorizing and approving the final subdivision plat and improvement plans for the ledges of Pine Ridge on parcel 37-00221, also known as 5008 State Road, and declaring an emergency. So the project summary is that this is the same that would have been distributed for the Planning Commission's review of this file. And that is that the owner applicant, now under 5008 State Road LLC, has applied for final plat approval. Can find those requirements in section 1113.04 of our general development code for the ledges of Pine Ridge subdivision. The project proposes development of a single roadway terminated by a cul-de-sac and associated public right-of-way and open space for a construction of 49 single-family attached dwellings on 12.3 acres. At their April 6th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting, the commission members voted to recommend approval of the final major plat, subject to the following findings and conditions contained in the file. Based on the final subdivision plat documents, the Planning Commission finds that project FMP-21-00008 meets the Cuyahoga Falls General Development Code final subdivision plat approval criteria and is recommending approval of the Ledges of Pine Ridge final subdivision plat with the following stipulations required for internal review and confirmation prior to recording of the plat. So obviously you'll have the discussion here as required, and then that would of course come out if given favorable recommendation to come out of committee for a vote by council of the whole, and then have additional consideration there. What we're saying within that recommendation is that before the final goes to be recorded at Summit County to have this dedicated right-of-way accepted and lots created and new parcels made out of the one that exists there now, we'd like to have all these final details nailed down. Really, in sum, you could say of these, I think there are 17 or 18 items on this list that it could just be one big contingency that it has to meet all the code. We think, though, it's good sometimes to give the developer specific things that they need to continue to work towards and to provide that for the public's review and input and for your reference, of course, on council. And so it helps to keep things consistent through the preliminary plat requirements all the way through the final. And so that's why you see so many different things listed here. We can go through these now. And one was to change the street name of Ledges Lane so as not to create confusion with the nearby bowling alleys designation. Number 2, the proposed street shall be public and meet local rural street type standards. The proposed sidewalk shall be 5 foot wide and required on both sides of the street, or take form of an 8 foot wide multi-purpose trail on one side. And regarding that item, that's something that we have been in communication with the developer, and their engineering team is working towards, and they are facing some challenges with some of the grade and some of the other things there that contribute to meeting compliance with our lot and street requirements. And so there could be one of two ways that works out, potentially others in terms of the final design, but it will be something that's code compliant with our Title II subdivision regulations. Number 3, a code compliant trail or sidewalk matching whatever that pedestrian improvement results in on State Road shall be constructed and connected to the sidewalk on Hidden Lakes Lane. Number 4, the build line minimum front setback shall be 20 feet to conform to Table 1132-2 residential lot and design standards. Number 5, the proposed driveways shall be allowed even if they do not meet the 40-foot separation requirements. Number 6, that a $1,200 fee in lieu of dedication be paid per dwelling per our code section 1124.05D, which can be used for recreational, open space, off-site public improvement plans, and or public art improvements. Number 7, all housing finished materials be designed with 50% of front facades. It must include natural color brick, veneer, stone, or cast stone. All siding shall be fiberboard or premium vinyl siding, and coach garage doors with windows shall be used. Number 8, heavy landscape buffering as defined in Table 1145-26, which is our landscape design code. And section 1145.08 shall be located along State Road and between the detention basin and the Hidden Lakes neighborhood. Number 9, must meet all other Title II land division requirements. Number 10, must meet all Chapter 1142 residential neighborhood design standards. Number 11, must meet all other Chapter 1145 landscape design requirements. And number 12, that a refundable cash or landscape site completion bond be submitted as part of that. That's just again another requirement that comes with really any site plan that has landscape installations. We have that to ensure that they're planted according to the plan, put in, and maintained for one full growing season before we release that bond. Number 13, a wetland delineation shall be submitted to ACOE with jurisdictional determination issued and mitigation credits paid for if required prior to any grading. Number 14, confirmation from Summit County that sanitary sewer from this property can be provided and collected by Cuyahoga Falls Sewer System. Number 15, confirmation of easement for sanitary sewer extension to Hidden Hollow Court. Number 16, declaration of covenants, conditions, restrictions, and reservation of easements shall be provided for city review and approval prior to filing of the final plat with the county. Number 17, developers shall continue to work with the city to help complete a state road corridor traffic study, which you were just provided an update on. And number 18, required radius of cul-de-sac to be confirmed with the fire department. And we did address that immediately following our planning commission meeting. And so we're firm there in terms of them meeting what they need to for that safety component. And here is just an image of the final plat itself. It shows you what is labeled now as Ledges Lane, but that'll be changed. Would look like going in on this parcel, and then the parcels with the single family attached unit footprints shown there for your reference. So that essentially completes the summary report, and I'd be glad to address any specific questions or any other information you might have.
Is this the time that council is free to ask Mr. Paul questions?
Yeah, do we want to give Mr. Modick an opportunity to present first?
Yes, thank you for your time this evening. Greg Modick, 10474 Broadview Road, Broadview Heights, Ohio. Appreciate the dialogue I've had quite a bit here today with Adam. As always, good working relationship with him. I had some email dialogue here too with Tony, which I appreciate. I think he just got back from being off there. Couple, there are quite a few items. Some of those listed were associated with just the standard stuff that we have to adhere to as far as detail engineering and the house specifications. I did want to touch on a couple of the ones I kind of look at as key items that came up during the planning commission approval of this. The 20-foot setback, we've made that adjustment. I sent Adam an email pertaining to that last Friday. I was engaging in some dialogue with him on the sidewalks there. There's no doubt we're going to make them work. I just kind of saw 2 or 3 different options and provided some sections to Adam and said, hey, let's talk this through and iron out what works best, what most appropriately adheres to the code and provides the best circulation. And certainly we're committed to doing that. Had a couple pavement section questions there with Tony for clarification. He provided a great response to me, which gave me clear direction on what to do for the pavement thickness on that. It doesn't change the necessary plat or layout. We are and will remain committed to working with the city and the traffic engineer on this study, not just monetarily, but with regards to our feedback from our subdivision, anything we can offer honestly, as well as we've made sure that there's enough room across our frontage to, if there's a warrant for the greater good of widening across our frontage, there is room and space to provide for that. The JD and permit is forthcoming. That I know that's listed on there. It's just taking time getting to the higher ranks for approval, but we've had affirmation that it's sent up and should be forthcoming any moment now. The county, I'll let Tony correct me if I'm misstating this, but I believe the county sent over from their end what they felt was needed, saying that was okay with the sanitary from the county's end. Certainly if something's further is needed, we'll help coordinate that with the county and Tony there. And then same thing with regards to the easements, the documents are off. They're in process of being signed and notarized so we can get those picked up and over to the city there. We're truly excited about this project. And if there's any questions that anyone may have this evening or any additional information I can provide, I'd be glad to do so tonight. Thank you again for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Modick. I guess I just want to comment on the fact that the city and everyone's joining forces to make sure that the traffic study is completed for the that whole corridor, that whole portion, to address not just the concerns of one set of residents, but I'm very reassured that the needs of the residents are being met. And then I know that you had mentioned at that meeting that you had also spoken with residents with regards to landscaping and screening, and that was all been addressed and satisfactory. So, and as long as everything, all these 17 or 18 conditions are met, I think my questions have been answered. I'd like to open it up to the committee if they have any comments or questions. No? Okay, Frank, you're next.
Mrs. Spinner.
Oh, yes,
Just
Mr.
real
Miller.
quick, just wanted to just echo what you just stated. Just to really appreciate the city and the developers' responsiveness regarding some of the residents' concerns.
Thank you. Mr. Stamps?
Thank you, Ms. Spinner. I don't know, this question is for either Mr. Paul or Mr. Modick. 18 conditions, is that, would you say that's a rather large amount or typical amount of conditions to be met for, I think it's the final plat I was hearing? I mean, I just would like to gain a perspective on this.
Sure, I can answer that from the city side. I kind of agree. It is a lot that you probably typically see more between the preliminary plat stage and the final plat stage. Some of those were carried over from that, just to maintain that consistency and keep all these things together in a punch list for them to be able to make sure we have been considering and to get taken care of before it gets to the point of being recorded. So it does seem like a lot. Some of those might even be a little redundant in what they state. And again, I think you could look at it even in simplistic terms of saying you need to be compliant with Title II subdivision regulations, Chapter 1142 residential design, and Chapter 1145 landscape design and screening. But in some cases, we think it's helpful to have a little bit more specific comments that we can keep referring back to and make sure that they are aware of that that's the expectation. Greg, if you wish to add
Thank
anything,
you.
please do. You're welcome, sir.
No, I think you covered it, Adam, and that's kind of what I'd echo, is that I think a lot of these are just making sure that the final documents they need to go through, such as detail engineering and some of the covenants and the restrictions that need stamped off before they're physically recorded. That's what these speak to. And I think, like Adam referenced, I think there may be a little more spelled out on this one versus prior, where there's more of that catch-all. Make sure that you've adhered to all applicable subdivision requirements. These kind of spell out quite a few of those, which is good. Honestly, I appreciate it. From my perspective, it helps make sure we have all the boxes to check when we come in with the final documents.
Thank you. I appreciate your answer, and to the reference detailed, specific detail. I'm looking at item number 5, the proposed driveway shall be allowed even if they do not meet the 40-foot separation requirements. Is there any requirement at all there for, I guess, separation of the driveways?
Technically, on a local street like that, for residential separation requirements, there is a code section that details 40 feet between the center of the drives to another. We see these types of developments come through that can meet the density and meet our public improvement requirements and other things, but there are certain elements of those details in the code that are not met. And so we're stating that so that the Planning Commission understands that they're recommending to you as council that you make an exception or deviate from that strict code adherence with respect to the driveway locations.
Thank you. You mentioned the Planning Commission, and I'm sure the Planning Commission was well aware of the traffic study being done regarding the development.
Yes, sir. They agreed and included that as well in terms of putting that recommendation forth that they continue to work with the city. And they've been a good partner to date in doing so. And I think that, hopefully that results in a good plan, and they're contributing to that. So hopefully it all's well that ends well.
Yeah, we keep our fingers crossed. 13, last question. Wetland delineation shall be submitted to ACOE with jurisdictional determination issued and mitigation credits paid for if required prior to any grading. Do you see that kind of, is wetland delineation, is that something to be concerned about, or is that typical in, say, a final plat approval?
It would be, and where they're involved in other site plans, even of a lesser scale, that requirement could exist. And I can defer to the city engineer for more detail on that specific comment.
Yeah, thank you. So wetland delineations are done for basically any project where a potential impact to wetlands or streams may be a result of the development. And so that comment not only applies to this project, but really all projects that we see come across. We understand that a wetland delineation has been conducted. It's been sent to the Army Corps of Engineers, and we're just waiting for them to issue what Greg talked about, a jurisdictional determination. Basically, it says that they agree with the locations of the wetlands as identified in the streams, and any impacts if they are located or if they are within the thresholds of a nationwide permit, then the project can move forward. If mitigation credits are required, then we'll want to see that documentation is issued as well.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stamps. Are there any other questions or comments from council? Any hands? Yes, Mr. Balthus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick comment. I would just like to thank the administration for doing the traffic study. I think that's important, and I think we heard that from the residents, and I'm really excited that we're doing that. And also just a quick thank you to the developer as well for contributing financially to the cost of that study. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Balthus.
Mrs. Spinner,
Yes.
I had a quick question.
Yes, Mrs. Spencer.
Just for clarification on the traffic study, I have the map over here on my other screen. When we say the state road corridor, where exactly when are we starting it? When should it be completed? And what are we getting everyone's concerns addressed in that? Because I know at the last meeting we were talking about how certain studies had already been completed and that data was recent enough. So I'm just curious to know, when will it be started? When should it be completed? And does it entail everyone's concerns that was brought beforehand?
I can answer that, Madam Chair. If you'll bear with me with these directions in terms of this corridor, Ms. Penta, what we're doing is taking the study from Cuyahoga and Steeles west down Steeles to State Road, north on State, and then back east on Seasons all the way up to Cuyahoga and down south on Cuyahoga. So that's the corridor essentially. We're hearing some, complaints about traffic, not just at State and Seasons for the homeowners in Hidden Lakes, but complaints about traffic on Steeles as well. So we want to make sure that what we're doing here, because we're putting in this development and then this other one, which is approximately 150 apartment units on Cuyahoga, we want to make sure that we're addressing that entire region when we're looking at the traffic. The study is underway. The contract's been signed, and we expect that we'll have the results of that within about 40 days, maybe 45 days, if not sooner.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
I don't see any other questions from council. Is there anyone from the public on tonight's call that would like to say anything or have any questions? I don't see any. Ms. Ciatola, were there any comments submitted from the public?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And Mrs. Capriola, I didn't want to. No, okay, thank you very much. So I appreciate all the detail and clarifications on all these many stipulations. I feel that they've been answered. I would like to entertain a motion to approve temporary ordinance B14 to come out of committee for a vote at council next week.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. The motion passes 3-0. Mr. President, that concludes the Planning and Zoning Committee for this evening.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Okay. See, Tim, you were missed there. It is now 6:56 and the Public and Industrial Improvements Committee will now come to order. Tonight we have two items to discuss, temporary ordinance B16 and B17. We'll start with B16, presented by the administration. An ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contract or contracts according to law for the Mudbrook Greenway Trail Phase 1 and declaring an emergency. And Mr. Damasi, if you would let us know what's happening. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Madam Chair. This project is one that we've been talking about for some time now. This is the construction of the first phase of the Mudbrook Trail. This first phase will construct a multi-use trail along Mudbrook from East Bath Road to Cuyahoga Lake Road. The trail will be a combination of 8-foot wide chip and seal pavement, wood boardwalk, and bridges crossing Mudbrook. The boardwalk will allow multimodal opportunities to access the natural greenway of Mudbrook and improve recreational accessibility to these neighborhoods. Bids for this project were open last week, and Vismeg Landscaping was the lowest and best bidder. Vismeg's bid was for $1.1 million. The budget sheet shows $825,884, which was what was in our budget this year, with a $625,000 grant coming in from ODNR. The way the schedule, we've spoken to the contractor, and the way the schedule is looking, we don't anticipate spending more than the $825,000 that we have budgeted this year. And so we'll work with finance to budget for the remaining funds for this project in 2022. But we certainly think we can move forward with the project with the funding that we have in place right now. We anticipate the project beginning in May of 2021 and completion in the summer of 22. And with that, I can answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you, Mr. Damasi. How long of a stretch is it? What length is it?
Oh, that's a good question. Don't have that readily available. I can look it up as I look at the plans, but again, it's from East Bath Road to basically the senior housing, the nursing home at the end of Pleasant Meadow. And then from there, it actually goes on to pavement. So if you're riding a bike on the path, you'll just get onto the pavement of the boulevard there, the Pleasant Meadow, and right up to Cuyahoga Lake Road.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Are there any questions from the committee? Any from the remainder of council? Mr. Brillhart?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to say a couple things. This project has been long planned and is really critical to meet the needs of the neighbors, the residents. And mostly I want to thank the hard work. There's been a lot of hours and hours put in this from the mayor, Anthony Zumbo, Tony Damasi, Ms. Calvecchio, the staff, Russ Balthus, you were out there on Sunday several times, Mrs. Iatola, I know you've been involved in this. The neighbors, the people, residents around there are really looking forward to this. And I just can't stress enough how grateful that we all are. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brillhart. Any other comments from council? All right. Were there any comments sent in by the public? No?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve temporary ordinance B16 out of committee tonight with a favorable recommendation.
Second. Second.
So moved. Yes.
Okay. All right, thanks. All those in favor of the committee, please signify by saying yes.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. All right, and then our next ordinance is temporary ordinance B17, presented by the administration, an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service to enter into a contractor contracts according to law for the removal of rust and loose paint and to repaint the steel framework at substations 3 and 7 and declaring an emergency. And Mr. Doherty, I believe you're going to speak about this.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, pretty much there isn't much more to it than what it says right there. Sub 3 is located between Pierce and Victor, right where Wilson Street dead ends into Pierce. And sub 7 is over by the water treatment plant in Kennedy Park. And those two substations, they've seen some wear and tear, and so this will get the main frame of the substation back in good shape to last us a number of years to come. We had a similar project done last year with sub 6 and 8, so it'd be similar to that.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Doherty. You also had told me that it's already gone out to bid and the cost will be $215,000 and they're going to get started as soon as the weather is ready for paint, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? From the remainder of council? And were there any comments from the public? Okay, hearing none, thank you. So, thank you. All right, I would like to entertain a motion to bring temporary ordinance B17 out of committee for a vote next week.
So moved.
And I'll get it in order this time. Second.
Okay, all those in favor from the committee, please say yes.
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 Motion passes 3-0. And that concludes the Public and Industrial Improvements Committee meeting for this evening.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to let you know real quick, that trail's about a mile long.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Damasi. Thank you.
Good evening. It is 7:03 and I will call the Public Affairs Committee to order. The first piece of business we have this evening is to approve the minutes from March 15th, 2021. Are there any comments or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, they'll stand approved as written. We have two pieces of legislation to consider this evening. The first is temporary ordinance B18, presented by the administration upon recommendation of the Traffic Committee, an ordinance amending the traffic control file by providing for the installation of various traffic control devices and declaring an emergency. So welcome, Chief Davis. Could you talk about this legislation with us a little bit, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just the two items tonight. One is the request to replace the four-way stop with a traffic signal at the intersection of 2nd Street and Northland. I know it's a project pretty much everybody's familiar with. I believe the lights are installed. They're going through a testing phase, so hopefully they'll be up and running soon. And then the second piece is a request to prohibit left turn movements into and out of the Target and Staples driveway and the Apples and Chili's drives from Howe Avenue, and making these turns right turn only. That's pretty much what they're designed for. And the problem is the signage we had said no left turn, and people were also still going straight, even though it was kind of a left jog. So this clears that up for people.
Great, thank you, Chief. Yeah, I know the traffic light, there's been a lot of discussion around that, and I know some concern. So hopefully, I think that'll be an improvement there. So I'm happy to see that's in place. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? Any questions or comments from council? Mr. James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say thank you for bringing this up about the intersection problems. When I go door to door, boy, there's all kinds of complaints about, you know, near accidents and everything going on in that intersection. A little bit of a concern of when the people are exiting the highway. You know, there's not that much of a stretch there if there's a red light or anything like that. But I think it's just something that needs to get used to. I think this is a safety precaution that's going to help everybody. And I'm just, I know that I've asked about this for years, and I'm just glad to see it come to fruition. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. James. Are there any other comments?
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks. Yeah, it's going to go into flash red all directions on Monday for a week. That's one of the requirements before it goes live. And the following Monday, it will be operational. As you know, some of you know on council that we're not allowed to just put traffic lights wherever we want. It's all regulated by the state. Same with four-way stops, two-way stops. It's all regulated in the manual. And originally there was no warrant to put a light there. However, we hired some more experts to look a little deeper, and we found a way that we can do it legally. So that's why it's going up. So anyhow, it'll be in test mode, all red for 1 week, and then it'll go live the following Monday. So should be a lot safer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate that. Any other comments or questions from council or the rail? Any comments from the public? Did we receive any communications? No.
No.
Is there a motion to bring out temporary ordinance B14 for a vote next week?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you. Next, we have the next piece of legislation to consider is temporary resolution B19, a resolution supporting the mayor's submission of an application to the Federal House Appropriations Committee for federal fiscal year 2022 community projects to repair the downtown Cuyahoga Falls Riverfront Boardwalk and to complete the Gorge Terrace Street Transformation Project and declaring an emergency. So who is going to speak on this evening?
Thank you, Chairman Balthus. They don't let me speak very often, so I hurriedly threw my hand up so that I could talk about these two exciting projects.
Looking forward to it.
As it said, we had an opportunity to apply for these projects through Congressman Ryan for the appropriations bill. Essentially, these two projects are a continuation of the administration's downtown Cuyahoga Falls reopening and providing access for folks to get there. So I'll go in order that they had them. The Boardwalk project is going to be a rehab and a continuation of the Riverfront Boardwalk and Trail between Broad Boulevard and Riverfront Park. It was originally built in the 70s as part of an urban renewal process, and it went from Portage Trail to Broad Boulevard. And some of these areas of the boardwalk have fallen into disrepair, as everyone knows. We have some of them closed now, and we've done a study with Palmer, and so we are looking to see what we can do to replace and enhance some of these areas. And so when we look at this project, we're going to try to reimagine the existing boardwalk and also provide some overlook areas. We want to improve some ADA compliance. It will
improve access and enhance the quality of life for our residents and all the visitors that want to come to our downtown, which everybody knows is many. It will provide some direct access to the Cuyahoga River, and it also will give some connectivity to Metro Parks trails and some additional neighborhoods, as you know, that have been asking for access from the north. This is just another continuation of our downtown story. It's going to provide, like I said, enhanced access for folks. And it's also going to provide support for all of our existing and future businesses in this work and play environment. This is what the mayor has said all along, that access is and will remain the driving force of our downtown success story. You know, we've talked about this many times, of how well everything is going down there, and this will just continue to enhance that if we're fortunate enough to get it. The other project is the Gorge Terrace plan, which some of you on council may remember is involving Front and Second Streets from the Cuyahoga River to Chestnut Boulevard. We had originally done a master plan prepared by GPD in August of 2013, and the city attempted to get this funded, but were unsuccessful. So we've sort of kept this master plan on the shelves, and in this opportunity, we wanted to try to bring this back as we continue to want to push our efforts of our downtown further south of Broad Boulevard. So basically, this is going to transform these 2- and 4-lane sections into 2-lane complete streets. Complete streets is really a concept that when we're trying to incorporate all different modes of transportation, pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicles. And as we've done up on the northern end, you know, this would also include some on-street parking, new sidewalks, and the pedestrian crossings. We're going to include a new shared multi-use path, enhanced bus stops for transit users. We're going to incorporate some green infrastructure when we start talking about stormwater management that we'll have to do for this project. And we also may be able to look at some traffic calming strategies so that we can increase some efficiencies and safety for pedestrians and vehicles as they move together now. And again, this will provide access to the Metro Parks trail system. Again, all this is just brought on by the initial and continued and future success of our downtown. Like I said, we want to extend this down south of Broad Boulevard. You know, that's one of the pushes that the mayor wants, and his commitment to the reopening of Front Street and this continuation south has made, is pushed public and private reinvestment into our city, and this project will only enhance that and bring it forward. That's all I really got in terms of what these projects are at this point, because we haven't really developed them fully, but I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Thank you, Director Zumbo. If you keep bringing exciting projects like this, we're going to have you talk more often. So I appreciate all of that.
Oh, Russ, there's a gag order for me. Mr. Chair, could I add something?
Please do, Mayor.
Thank you. And we already submitted these. It was a week ago Wednesday they were due, so they were already submitted to Congressman Ryan's office. This is a follow-up to have resolution that's going to give us a little more juice. If you read in the paper about the earmarks, they kind of went away in 2011, but they never really went away. There was just things buried in bills, and now they thought this would be more transparent. So we submitted it to him. We don't know how they score these projects, but within his district, we're the 3rd largest city. So I think we have a really good chance. I've reached out to him personally, and for what that's worth, I think we do have a good chance at getting one of these, maybe both, but we'll have to wait and see. So this is kind of a new process in Washington, more transparent, I guess. So we're very hopeful that we'll get funding for these.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And you miss all the shots you don't take. So I'm excited that you guys are looking at this, and looking for other sources of revenue to help continue the progress we've had in our downtown. And I know we spent a lot of time, 4 or 5 years ago now, when we worked to get the Tiger grant, educating our federal elected officials. I recall walking downtown with Congressman Ryan. I recall walking downtown with Congressman Joyce and trying to build that support for the project. And I know that I know we weren't successful with the Tiger grant, but I have no doubt that they know that we've had a lot of success with our downtown development. And I know the Boardwalk is something that I hear a lot about here. A lot of my neighbors like to walk their dogs there or to go down there. And I know we've got some structural issues, as you mentioned, Anthony. It was built in the 70s, and these things are hard to maintain. So finding this outside funding to help revitalize that and improve that is something that I think would be fantastic. And I'm excited about it and appreciate the administration being innovative and reaching out, looking for other funding sources to continue our progress here on Front Street and to expand it towards the river and further south towards the gorge. So I think it is all great and appreciate the effort. Are there any comments or questions from the committee? Any comments or questions from council? Mr. James.
Thank you, Chairman Balthus. Just a quick comment here and a big thank you from Congressman Ryan all the way down through the administration and everybody involved with this project. There's a lot of hikers and walkers that I know, and they are just going to be thrilled when they know that they can walk down through Cuyahoga Falls now along the river with their hiking and their walking and their biking, and they're just going to be very, very excited with this. So I wanted to thank everybody again, and great work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman James. I think Councilwoman Spinner, did I see your hand?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few weeks ago, one of my daughters and I took a walk down along the historic trail markers and tried to see them all. And as we did that, I felt like we really tried to see that area as tourists, in our own town. And it was thrilling, and we had such a fun time. And it was one of those great, yes days. I said yes to stopping in here and shopping there. And it was great fun. And I think it'll just be even more enhanced by the Boardwalk. I look forward to continuing my tourism as a resident through the Boardwalk in that part, but I'm very much excited about the continuation of that excitement into the south side of Broad Boulevard and continuing that momentum and that growth and all the fun that is to be had once those improvements continue to be made on that side. So I am very appreciative, and I'm very excited to see this project progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Spinner. Are there any other comments from council? President Brillhart.
Thank you, Chairman Balthus. If I could just have a quick question for Mr. Zumbo.
Go ahead.
Would be just curious what the timetable would be should we get these grants, when some construction would start.
That's a very good question. These projects are both really in the planning stage. So the money would be for the 2022 fiscal year for the feds, which I believe starts this February. So that's when the money would be, or not this February, this September, I'm sorry, or October 1st. It's the end of September is when the federal fiscal year ends. So it's October 1st is when funds would be available. And then, so the city was already sort of looking at the Boardwalk project. We were planning on going out for an RFP, which we already have, and we're going to be looking at doing some of these things. That particular project was really only looking at the existing Boardwalk. We sort of expanded it with this so that we could get further to the north because we had an opportunity to go after some outside dollars. So that being said, that project is probably several years away. I wouldn't want to say when we could start construction. We did kick around for the Gorge Terrace project, potentially doing a design build or sort of a hybrid like we did when we opened Front Street, where
The contractor prepared the final construction plans and we reviewed them because that's a more expedited delivery system. So I don't know if we would go fully design build or not, but if we did something like that, we might be able to get Gorge Terrace started within a year or so. Getting it out to bid, I don't know that we would start construction, but you'd probably get it out sometime like that. Tony may have some additional thoughts because I'm sort of giving him a bunch of work. So if he's got some different ideas, he can feel free to weigh in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Are there any other comments from council? Councilwoman Penta?
It's not really, well, it kind of aligns with this. It's a small little plug because we're talking about the boardwalk and the water and Front Street. I just wanted to remind everyone that this Saturday is the Kayak Fest. So I just wanted to put that out there as well, because I think having the boardwalk with these enhancements and being tourists and doing the historical walk, it also adds, don't forget about this great event that we have coming this Saturday. So I just wanted to remind everyone.
Very good. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments from council? Are there any comments from the public? Did we receive any communication on this ordinance? Hearing none, is there a motion to bring temporary resolution B19 out for a vote next week?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying yes. Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries, and we'll vote on that next week. Is there any other business to come before the Public Affairs Committee? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, it is now 7:21 and the Community Development Committee will now come to order. I believe we have some minutes to approve, and that is from March 15th, 2021. Do we have any additions, subtractions, deletions? Seeing none or hearing none, we'll set them as approved. Okay. We have one item to look over today, and that is right here, B20, presented by the administration, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a grant agreement with the Ohio Developmental Services Agency for the Abandonment Gas Station Cleanup Grant Program in an amount not to exceed $250,000 for the real property known as 1704 South Front Street, parcel 02-04691, Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio 44221, and to make the necessary appropriations for the same and declaring an emergency. I believe, Diana, Ms. Calaboco, you're speaking on this?
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Madam Chair. So just by way of history, for you, Council, you had given us the authority back on October 29th of 2019 to purchase this building from Marilyn Leach. This is the old gas station on the west side of South Front Street, across from Hi-Ho Brewery. And we have known that there were tanks buried in that property and probably asbestos. We have had a phase 1 analysis performed on it. And so we know that it was going to require some extra assistance in order for us to do a proper and thorough cleanup. Unfortunately, the state of Ohio had not been funding these types of grants for several years. But lately, they decided to put money into these funds again, and we applied and we got lucky. So now these funds are available. We're asking by way of this ordinance that you authorize the mayor to sign the contract, allowing us to accept this grant. These funds are not matching grants. This is just the amount of the award that will go into our fund, and we will use it for the removal of the tanks, asbestos removal, demolition, and overall site cleanup. And we expect that the amount of the grant, the $250,000, will cover all of those expenses. We then will have a site-ready parcel for future development in our downtown area. And I hope to be back to you in the fairly near future about the prospects of redevelopment for that parcel, but I have nothing definitive to report to you tonight with respect to that. So if we accept this, the project can begin as early as May 5th. We'd have to close the grant out by June of 2023, and we don't see any issues with those timeframes. So with that, be glad to answer any questions.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's always nice to find some grant money to do some cleanup projects and then future development for that little parcel area. Does anyone from the committee have any questions or comments? No? Does anyone on council have any questions or comments? Mr. Gorbach?
Hi, thank you, Ms. Penna. May I ask Ms. Colabecchio a question? I didn't hear you
Yes,
finish.
yes, of course.
I didn't,
Yes.
Okay.
Go for it.
I'm sorry I didn't ask this question earlier last week. Is this a case where we would transfer the ownership of this property to the land bank to ensure we wouldn't have any liability during the cleanup and then we would gain the title back? Or is this a different animal with receiving grants to do this type of work?
It's a project where we could do something like that, but we also have the same kinds of immunity with respect to these cleanups. So in this case, we're just going to retain title and move forward, do the cleanup ourselves and get the clearance or certificate from the EPA saying that we're immune from further action.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Penna.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Mrs. Spinner?
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me. I just want to say how excited I am to hear about the possibility and the potential for that redevelopment and what that piece can be in the future. So I am waiting with bated breath and looking forward to that.
Sure thing.
Any other questions or comments from council or the administration? Did we have any public comments? Okay.
No.
All right, perfect. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve bringing out B20 for out of committee with a favorable recommendation.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, that is 3. So we will bring out B20 for council for a vote on April 26th. And that concludes the Community Development Committee. That's it, everyone. So
Good night.
Have a good night.